Hi there. I looked online today for my video under hashtag #FreeTommy on YouTube, and I couldn't find it, at least not going back the last week or so when I only put my video out a couple of days ago or so. And thank you for those who've watched. At about 200 views, I think. It's not exactly earth-shattering, but that's fine. I just was so upset, I wanted to say something. Thank you for those who watched and those who subscribed. But I wondered why I couldn't find it, even so. And I wondered, could it be because I dared mention Islam, although I didn't criticize it? I just said, we need to discuss what it actually teaches. And it can't be surely about Tommy Robinson, because lots of people have put up videos about Tommy Robinson. Anyway, I decided, well, I'd put another one up. And I thought I would just mention something about Islam. I actually have a wonderful memory going back 25 years maybe. I'm not so young, as you can probably realise. And I was living in the northeast of England at the time, and I remember a wonderful family. They were truly good people, godly people, you could feel it. And they ran a shop. I can't remember any of their names, but I got friendly with them. I talked to them, and they were really nice. And I remember coming in one day. It was at dusk, and it must have been Ramadan, because this young man in the shop, he was breathing a blessing or a prayer over a date, and he was just going to eat it to break his fast. And then he gave it to me. And I felt so honored by him doing that. And I asked him about Ramadan, and he told me it was about understanding what it was like to not have very much, to be hungry, to be in the desert. And as I say, these were wonderful people. And well, that was an experience I had, and I haven't forgotten it. But I have taken the trouble to do a little bit of reading, and I don't claim to be a great expert, but I've read enough. I have my own copy of the Quran here, and I know enough to know that there is something called abrogation, where a later verse abrogates an earlier verse that contradicts it. And you can't tell by looking at the Quran which are the later verses and which aren't. You have to find that out elsewhere. But when you start reading some of the later verses, this is one, it's a very famous one, from Surah 9, verse 29. Fight those who do not believe in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which has been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are of the people of the book, that's Christians and Jews, until they pay the jizya, that's a tax, with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. And you learn a little bit about the history. By the way, this is my Quran. You learn a little bit about the history of Islamic rule and this whole system of dimitude, where non-Muslims who were Christians or Jews under Islamic societies ruled essentially under Sharia law were second-class citizens. They did not do so well. They couldn't get justice against a Muslim. They couldn't build new houses of worship. There were various deliberately humiliating rules against them. And if you weren't a Christian or a Jew or a non-Muslim, you were actually even worse off. Actually, a lot of Hindus were murdered in India until it was realized that there were probably too many Hindus there and they couldn't murder them all. So they were kind of made honorary people of the book, even though Hinduism is actually polytheistic. But there are other verses that are somewhat troubling. Here we are, Surah 8, verse 15. O you who believe, when you meet the unbelievers in hostile array, never turn your backs to them. There are actually quite a lot of disturbing verses. And you have to realize that the disturbing verses are the later verses from the time when Muhammad was in Medina. Oh, here we are. Surah 8:36. The unbelievers spend their wealth to hinder men from the path of Allah, and so will they continue to spend. But in the end they will have only regrets and sighs. At length they will be overcome, and the unbelievers will be gathered together into hell. Or 8 verse 12, remember your Lord inspired the angels with the message, I am with you. Give firmness to the believers. I will instill terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. You smite above their necks and smite all their fingertips off them. And my understanding is there are actually over 100 verses that tell faithful Muslims to abuse or even murder non-Muslims simply because of their beliefs. And unlike troublesome verses in other religions, these are prescriptive. They are commandments. Now, obviously, there are many good people who are Muslims, like the wonderful family I knew. And obviously, what people do themselves in their own families, so long as they don't abuse each other, so long as they don't commit violence against one another, then everyone should be free to believe and follow what they want, even if other people don't agree with it. But the problem here is that all people would be put under Sharia law if it became the law of the land. And if you're not a Muslim, you are not in a good position. It is supremacist. And if you're a woman, you're not too well off either. And these kind of problems do need to be discussed. I mean, people openly criticize other religions, and that is their right to do so. But here, when we come to Islam, somehow the goalposts have been moved, and I think that's not good for all our sakes. Anyway, that's really what I wanted to say, apart from Tommy Robinson needs to be freed. And I'm going to put below where you can support him financially if you're able to do so. And we need to support human rights. We need to support freedom, but for everyone. And we need to call a spade a spade. And the trouble with political correctness, I actually remember when political correctness started becoming known. Well, I heard it first from my brother when I went to see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Robin Hood had acquired a Muslim sidekick. And my brother said to me, oh, political correctness. And that was the very early 90s, I think. I'd never heard that term before then. And the problem is that not everything is equal. That we have to use common sense, that we're entitled to think for ourselves, we're entitled to speak freely. I don't wish to cause offense, but sometimes it's unavoidable. However polite, however well-meaning you may be, but that's the nature of living in a free world. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for those who subscribed. And have a good day. And let's hope Tommy Robinson gets out very, very quickly now. Thank you. Goodbye.